Here. So good morning, Lori Rubish. This is the recording for you. We'll try to work this out. We sent 2 documents to you just this morning because we just finished them this morning. The first one is on just developing some collective promises or norms, since we are going to be online, I think, for quite a while, and also teacher expectations moving forward. So can you give me a thumbs up if you have those 2 documents or you can have access to those? Okay, awesome. So, Mandy, if you go into your email, so if you
I did see them. I don't know how to see them and this at the same time. So well, I just scanned them because I didn't have much time to read them because of the meeting. So I don't know how to do, if we can do both, or I don't know how that works.
Well, we are going to attempt to share this screen.
Okay.
So that you can see them.
Thank you.
So, no, that is not the document we want. All right, let me try that again. So I had them open in my Google, and I'm wondering why they're not on this. Wondering why they're not on my. All right, I'm gonna find them. But in the meantime, as I'm trying to find where I actually have them, oh, it might be right here. Sorry, this is a learning, this is learning for us as well.
Diane, I was talking to my husband and about Sarah's not being able to see her video. And Sarah, you might have to go into your settings. That's about as far as I can tell you what to do. But if you dig around in your settings, then you can tell it to like enable your computer. He's working, so I probably shouldn't pull him away, but
her screen is completely frozen now.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to help.
She's just going to come over here. We'll share.
All right, this is going to be a new skill that John or Jenny is going to teach me, because I have them and I can see them, but I don't know how to. Oh, look at that. Amber, you rock. So there you can everybody see those that Amber just sent out?
I could see it at first, but now it's a black screen.
Yeah, it's the same on mine too.
Mine too.
Okay. Well, let's just not share at the moment, and we will just, most of you have them. We'll just kind of talk through them, if that's okay. And then Jenny can teach us a new skill. So we were just thinking, you know, this is new for us. The whole online piece is new for us. Also, we are sharing with a bigger group than we're used to. So we now have E1, E2, and all elementary. So we were thinking about, what does that exactly look like? So here are some of the questions we came up with. How do we communicate effectively via Zoom? So if we are going to have these type meetings, how is it an effective communication? The second question was, how do we ensure that all of you who are part of the Zoom have a voice? So that'll be important. The third point is, if we do talk about students or families or how to meet needs down the road, how do we maintain confidentiality so that we're sure that all of us are feeling that need for confidentiality? How do we prepare for this meeting virtually? And finally, how do we share ideas? So on the bottom of that document, I did put some ideas on developing some collective promises. So you'll see those are just examples that I took from other documents, and we can call them norms, collective promises, but I took those from other documents. So that doesn't mean those are ours. And when you're doing collective promises, you probably are thinking about 3 or 4 or 5 things that you might want to consider when we meet in these Zoom groups. I also put on the bottom, I thought those from Mount Vernon were a pretty good idea as well. So if you want to unmute yourselves and let's talk about what you might want that to look like, what's important to you, what you believe would be important to this group. Now I'm not seeing any of you anymore. Oh, there you are. So does someone want to start with sharing?
Yeah, I was just reading them through, and I think the one where talking about honoring confidentiality, I think we just need to be aware of if we're conferencing from home and we're talking about students, just to make sure that we're in a private area so that, you know, partners, spouses, your children aren't overhearing conversations that might need to be left but just between the meetings. So, so I think that we all know to honor it, but just being aware of like who might be listening in the background.
I know yesterday Mr. Lorenz put earbuds in, and that's how he kind of solved it, and because he had that as a concern as well, so he just put earbuds in.
Okay, but that wouldn't solve any comments that he's saying back.
What do others think about
I
that?
have earbuds in, but yeah, it won't solve what I say out loud, and I don't know how much I can be in a different room and make it possible for me to be on Zoom away from my kids, which most likely I'll be home alone with, you know? So keep an eye
At
on.
least you know that crew won't share anything.
Right.
You know, what we could do is if you are making a comment, down at the bottom of the screen, you have the chat room. So if you felt like it was something that needed to be confidential, instead of saying it, you could type it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, another thing I just thought of is could we use pseudonyms for the students being discussed?
We could also use initials. And speak a little bit more generally about students. So you could say, if we're talking about someone in Luann's room and we say that person's name first, or that family's name, and then we just we say family A instead of saying the whole, you know, specific information. Does that help?
I think those options would be helpful, but I think that unless everyone comes to agreement, like, okay, this is how we're going to do it, it might be confusing if Erin and I are talking about somebody and we're on the same page, but then maybe I'm having a conversation with Luann and we think, or she is thinking, oh, we're using initials, and I'm thinking we're using, you know, family A, family B, and now there's like confusion. So then I think that we just need to make sure that we all come to an agreement on like, okay, what is the code that we're going to use?
I like the idea of the initials.
Okay.
Diane, do you want me to put notes on this while we're going? I think I can do that.
Yes, that would be awesome. I'm just doing the old paper and pencil right now.
Okay,
So if you can do that, that'd be great.
maybe I can't. Hold on.
So for the rest, is that okay if we are talking confidentiality, that we just say, so if I'm talking about, we were just talking about Colton Anderson, I'm just gonna say CA or CA's family. Is that manageable?
It sounds good.
You could also say the grade, like CA3, because like Erin has a CA class with Kate. So maybe just say the grade number behind it as well.
Okay. So do we say CA in, and I know these are small details, but it's good to figure those out. CA in Luann's room or CA third grader?
Maybe just grade.
Okay.
Yeah, how about CA third?
We can do that. Okay, so we have confidentiality. What else would you like for your, what else do you see as important as we meet online and how to manage that?
I'm just going to jump in again. I'm looking at number 1, how do we effectively communicate via Zoom? I know to enter a Zoom meeting, you have to be invited to the meeting. I'm wondering I know some teachers only check their email a certain time, and what if they missed the invite and now they missed that Zoom meeting?
So how do you see us managing that?
Can we just have hours of operation?
Yes, we'll talk a little bit about that today, as far as there'll be certain times where we'll be meeting on for Zooms, but there might be times where as groups you might want to do some things on your own, but we'll definitely have 3 days or 3 times that we'll have scheduled, so we'll know the time period.
And I think
to reduce, go ahead, Diane.
Nope, you go.
I think to reduce stress on the students and parents end and our end is that if they're trying to get into a Zoom and they try for 3 to 5 minutes and nothing's happening, just to ensure them that we're recording it so that they don't have to sit there for 20 to 30 minutes to try to get in, just to let them know that they have a time span to try, and then they can stop and we'll email the recording, just so our email isn't, like I know my college instructors will like check their email and do virtual teaching at the same time, which gets a little heavy sometimes. I just can't picture us right now trying to check our email and respond to people that are having technical issues at the same time as trying to like read a book. So I think that 5-minute mark is good, and then just letting them know it's okay if you drop off and view the recording.
And I think one of the things maybe we talked about earlier is back last week, or I guess earlier this week, is just making sure you do check your emails, because you might get an invite from somebody else. A parent might be trying to invite you. So just kind of stay on top of those emails and watch that. And I think, Amber, you make a good point, because again, we were practicing earlier, and some of you heard this, some of you didn't. You might just get cut off. Like your internet, I was sitting in the office and it just dropped. It just dropped me. So if you get dropped, you just go back to that invitation and just re-click on it and rejoin. But you might not be able to. Something might be out with your home internet, or as we know, with the school internet, that happens. So that's okay. Those things are going to happen. So I like that idea of recording and saying, well, to the parents or to each of us too, you know, it's not your fault if you can't get back on. We'll just make sure we're recording the meetings and sending them to you.
Diane, are we gonna talk about what stay on top of emails means a little bit later too in our norms?
Yeah, we can talk about that right now.
Okay. I have mine on my phone, and I think if I don't set like office hours, I'll be checking it all the time and go crazy.
Yeah.
What do you?
So what do people think about that? What do you think about what does that mean, staying on top of email?
I was thinking about it, about having like the hours that were in school. But I think like being available the hours that we would be available in school, because it's easy for the parents to remember. But I think people are going to have a hard time with that if they have working schedules. So I think we might have to allow them to set up a meeting, essentially what they do the same in this with us at school. So just keep it consistent, like keep our hours when we would originally be at school, but if they need something more, then set up a meeting after hours. So we don't have to try and remember too many new things or time frames.
What do people think about that?
I don't mind checking my email whenever I have time, I guess. I check it whenever I get a chance. But to communicate with parents, yeah, during school hours sometimes.
Does that extend to students then too? Because I mean, even mine, they've emailed me, called me, and it's like 6:30 at night, and I've answered every time because I don't know if they're asking a question or if they're stuck on something or if they're just calling to talk. And sometimes that has been the case. So, like, for example, last night I had like 4 different calls come in at 7:30. And I just decided to ignore them because I don't want to set that precedence that my phone can be blowing up constantly, you know, because really in a normal school day, if they had any questions, they would have to wait until the next day during those school hours. So for students too, reaching out to teachers, I think there needs to be that collective, like maybe there's the parents' communication is a little bit further into the night depending on their work schedule, but I think students need a structure too, like, okay, you know, if it's after 5 p.m., you're just going to have to wait until the next day.
Well, if we decide on these collective promises that yes, we're available, and I'm just reading from you, Erin, we're available during school hours. If parents need you at a different time, they send you an email to set up, or a student. Students should be, for the most part, available during the day. Your elementary students obviously might need more support, but is it fair to say to the parents, if you need something different, then email me to set up a time? How do people feel about that?
I think it's kind of, excuse me, personal preference. You know, I have parents email me even during the school year at night, and I will usually respond, but I guess some people are comfortable with it and some people aren't comfortable with responding to emails in the evening.
So maybe what we could say is, if you need me at a different time, email me and we'll get back to you either that evening or tomorrow. But phone calls, I think Amber makes a pretty good point on phone calls. Getting called at 7:30 at night, I mean, how did the rest of you feel about that? It seems to be a bit late, and you might be trying to get your kids to bed or doing laundry or whatever else we do at 7:30 at night. How do you feel about those things?
Well, ordinarily we wouldn't, I wouldn't usually get a phone call from a parent that late at home, you know? Or I think maybe, Amber, it would be like maybe it's just the way it works for your class, perhaps, or have they done it before? Have they called before last night?
No, so I think that, so they've been testing out like Google Hangouts or Google Meet, I don't know what it's called now, but to communicate with me, and it has worked, and I've given like math lessons over video, and I've answered, you know, questions, but then also these kids are not used to being home all day. And so they get bored and they just call to see who's going to pick up in our group, our classroom group. And I have no way of telling, are you calling because you're bored or are you calling because you need help with something? And it'll start at 8 o'clock in the morning and go all the way. Artie called me at, oh, sorry. Well, it's just us and no one's here. But called me at 9:30 last night and I didn't answer because I figured, you know what? He's probably just calling to see if his friends are going to pick up, but I'm part of all of those groups as the teacher in the class.
Right.
So,
you know, with our age group, you know, the kiddos aren't going to be calling us. And I don't know, I guess if a parent were to call me at night, I guess it would be something very important. I think that they would need to connect with me on, but ordinarily we wouldn't have that.
So maybe what I'm hearing is we want, like Amber, if you're doing Google Hangout, or maybe you set some parameters for your kids. I don't know. It sounds like maybe that for the elementary won't be, but maybe we could just say phone calls will be answered in the morning.
okay, yeah, because like yesterday I had calls coming in all day long, but most of them had told me or submitted onto Google Classroom that they were done with their daily work by 1 in the afternoon. And so then all of the video calls after that were just for fun. And so I don't know if I just encourage them to start a new group of just like whoever they want to call instead of using our classroom group. Because anytime they call in our classroom group, it comes in on my phone and my computer, and I need to make that decision. Do I answer? Do I not?
Yep, or maybe you as a class set up times and say these are the times that we're going to be available for these options. That might help you set some parameters. And I think too, when you have a little excitement over something new, you might get a few more calls to begin with, but maybe your class is super excited the whole time. Okay, so if you take a look at what Erin has typed up for number 4, do people feel that is good?
Yes, please tell me if you want me to add or modify anything.
Any other changes to that one?
We think it looks good.
Thank you, the Tammy, Sarah team.
No problem.
Okay, so we have we've covered confidentiality. We've covered how to prepare to meet virtually. Any other thoughts on collective promises and how you maybe communicate with each other?
I'm learning as I go here, people.
So in general, you'll be speaking with each other, you know, we'll get to that a couple times a week. What about your communication with each other? You'll see a couple at the bottom that have some suggestions on being engaged, preparing, showing respect, listening, accepting, open-minded. You'll see some things on sharing on the number 9. Sharing ideas and resources. What would you like that to look like?
Thank you.
I think we'll just, I mean, by email is the easiest way. And then on here if we have to.
Yep, so if we're thinking about being here on Zoom meetings, what do you think that looks like? So that we don't have anyone manipulating all the time, or some people not having an opportunity or not sharing. How do we sort of make sure that everyone has a voice during these meetings?
You can just call us out, Diane.
You can what?
You can just call us out if you want to hear more from us. I don't know. I was just thinking like what I'll do for my students. On the top, it says, how do you ensure that all people have a voice during the meeting? So if we're talking about our kiddos, I'll just make sure that I'm not always calling the same kiddo's name. I'll probably do some sort of share at the beginning, but maybe cut them off after a minute, or same thing I do in the classroom, so it doesn't turn into one person talking, you know, because I have some good storytellers. So if we just want that to happen here too, I don't know. Or email works for me too.
I was kind of thinking about us here. How do we ensure that we have communication and that everybody's voice is heard and that everybody participates? How do we make that look?
Maybe being clear with the expectations of why we're meeting. Maybe knowing why we're meeting and coming with one or two ideas, you know, in our head before we meet. So then we're just ready to share, get it done. And
But like an agenda before each meeting? Can that be an expectation?
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot right now of like, what idea are we bringing to the table? Kind of zone in on what the focus of the meeting is. Because there's so much right now. Like, are we talking Zoom? Are we talking curriculum? Are we talking parent communication?
Yeah, and I think that'll be clear when we kind of go through the document, the second document on those Zoom meetings. And we'll too do our best to prepare and have, if I'm leading it or Jeff's leading it, we'll definitely try to have some kind of a agenda. It's been very quick, having meetings yesterday and having 3 sets of meetings today with middle school, high school, and elementary, and us trying to figure that out as well. So we'll try to have a clearer agenda as well, if it's us that are leading it. One of those meetings will be led by Jenny and John. So, you know, we'll ask them if they can have some type of agenda. And then the third one, it looks like, might be you or somebody from your group leading it. So, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So what I heard you saying is set the expectation of why we're meeting by sharing agendas before the meeting, or the focus of the meeting at least, and letting people know, hey, we want you to share one thing during this meeting, so that people are taking a look and figuring out what they might want to share. Does that sound like what you just suggested?
I think it's important to, and you said we were going to talk about this later, to have a leader or a host, whoever it is, so that person, like Amber said, can call people out who aren't talking. So one person can think about who has all shared something and who hasn't, and some people might need to be called on to share because it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, it'd be good to have that, you know, and it is different via Zoom. So it feels a little, maybe a little isolating because you're hearing one voice and everybody's muted, rather than if you were in a room sitting at a table together, you can just kind of say what you want to say. I think people are a little more careful via Zoom because is somebody else going to talk at this moment, or who else is thinking something? So that takes a little bit of time too, to feel comfortable with this format and not having live bodies sitting at a table.
Maybe we already covered this, but maybe I forgot. Are we supposed to be recording every single Zoom meeting that we have?
Well, that's a good question. I am recording this one because Lori Rubish asked me to. So I thought, well, let's try it. This will be a first attempt for me to take this recording and turning it into a YouTube and sending it to you. It's probably nice if you can't be here, if something happens technology-wise, to just record it and send it out. It seems like a pretty easy process to be able to do that. How do you feel about that?
It's fine. If everyone in our group has attended the meeting, though, do we still need to record it just for like documentation, or is it just as if we had a meeting in our classroom?
You know, I would think about doing that because some specials have come in and said, okay, you know, I'd like to be at both, or some people that are working as aides, paraprofessionals. Sarah Nelson had mentioned she's going to go to the elementary and middle school. So if somebody cannot make one, it's still available there for somebody to look at.
That's a good idea because I am in the same position with elementary and middle school.
So just so I'm understanding, and for the sake of anyone who else might be confused still, we are going to be recording every meeting, yes?
Every meeting with teachers, or?
Yeah, we'll record everyone.
Yeah.
At one of the other meetings we had talked, and I can't remember which one because there was 3 of them yesterday, had talked a little bit about also with parents or with kids, if you can record those, because you might be meeting with a group of 4 or 5 kids, and you know, a parent might be working, not be able to be part of that Zoom. The one parent I had talked to before we left said, well, it would be nice to have some recordings and then we can go back afterwards. So if they're individual meetings, don't. But if they're a group meeting, yeah, so why not? It's one button and downloading and sending in the future.
The only question I have about that, Jeff, is maybe we need to check into that as far as confidentiality. Recording students and confidentiality. I can ask, I'm going to go on a webinar later with Bob Butler. I can ask about that. So Amber, can we get back to you on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from your group, or from some of you, are the confidentiality piece, sort of the hours of operation, the expectations. Is there anything else the elementary team wants as part of their collective promises when we meet?
It looks good to me.
Anyone else? Any thoughts?
We may need to just add to it as we go too, as we become more comfortable and this becomes what we do.
Yeah, kind of a new norm. Absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll take those pieces and we'll turn it into the elementary's information. And then we'll just, if we're running the meeting, if Jeff or I are running the meeting, I think with collective promises, it's always good to either have those to begin each meeting and just have them shared, or to just review, this is what we promised each other. Is there anyone that feels differently, like you say, that sounds silly, we shouldn't have that? Are there any pieces that you don't agree with? Because this is the time to say it so that we know how to operate moving forward.
I think everything looks good for now.
Okay. Okay, so we will get that document sort of turned into just the elementary's document. I think that it'll be important. We have Ashley that is finally able to get into our website. So I think we will do some sharing via the website, also Facebook, and Jessica has access to that classroom that we share some of this information with parents. I'm writing a letter as well for the newsletter, and I'm going to put some pieces of that, what we're creating today, in there as well, especially with, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking office hours are during that school time. And if you have a phone call, so I'll kind of put that in the letter to communicate with parents as well. And you do that as well when you communicate with your parents, either via email or Zoom or however you're communicating, so that they know kind of what the expectations are as well. Because Jeff and I have both talked to different sets of parents. A couple of things that have come up is, you know, parents are a little scared to be the teacher. And so they've said, I want the teacher to tell me what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. So that was a message. The other one was, I don't know if I should be calling or not calling, or emailing or not emailing. And I've said to parents, please do, because we want you to feel, we know that this is kind of it's a scary time for us as educators, and it's kind of a scary time. It is a scary time for the parents as well. So we're asking that, that's what parents are asking. So you'll obviously hear more as you communicate too what parents want. That might actually be a super topic for next week, is if you have an opportunity to communicate with parents, what do parents want? So that we know how to best service parents and students as well. Jeff, do you want to take over the second document, the teacher expectation?
Sure. On that second document, and we'll kind of just roughly go through some of these things as far as, you know, the parent expectations. When you look at that, those are the same things that Diane and I put out at our Monday in-service time. And so as you know, those are some things that we currently are expecting, but you know, as we move forward and so forth, and as you guys develop some skill sets, those things will change. And what we want to do is we want to be able to you know, work on those skill sets because we're learning things that we haven't done before. You know, yesterday I had to be talked through sending a Zoom invitation. So hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to do that. And I'm kind of slow on those type of things, so I have to ask questions and so forth. And so we want to make sure that we continue to have those things in place. The current professional development, and that's what we want to do. And these are the things that we'll do on a weekly basis. So for example, a meeting like this, our group PLC meetings. And those things, I just kind of threw out some ideas as far as purpose, and you brought that up earlier. And that's something that you guys will develop on your own, because those will be things that you guys will facilitate. Diane and I might sit in and kind of watch, but we won't, we'll be passive listeners as you guys communicate and develop some of these things. And these are some ideas, you know, during those meetings of what they will look like, because some people are going to be at different levels of where they are in families, interacting with technology and so forth. So, sharing online instructional practices are some ideas of purpose, but you guys will develop that purpose. Um, um, sharing the successes and then things that you're really struggling on. So we're going to look at that, and that's going to be, probably an hour meeting that you guys can develop your in our time developing your schedule, but then also figuring out what time works for you guys as a group. You guys can decide when that's going to be as a group, and then just commit to that every Monday that you're going to meet. And then again, like we had talked about, taping that, and so we can get those out to people that might not be able to attend both meetings. If you look at Tuesdays, we look at Tuesday, Zoom is just having that Zoom and doing a little invitation as one of our assignments. That's one thing that kind of gets our comfort zone. We get out of our comfort zone, and if we can check that off and feel that we're good at it, or better at it, or learning it, that's one less stressor that we have in our life. So next time, on Tuesday, and those meetings will vary because a couple elementary teachers had said, can we, today it was elementary, middle school, and high school, and we went, yesterday we went in that same order, so if we can rotate those around. And so that was a good suggestion by a couple elementary people. And so that meeting will have a half-hour meeting, and that will be on Tuesdays, and the focus will be on Zoom. And I think that when I was talking to John and Jenny, the focus on that one will be looking at how to record yourself and then send it out. And that's something that I think assignment will be doing that to a staff member, and then being able to do that to say hi to families in the future. On Thursdays, we'll do the same thing as far as possibly Google Classroom for middle school and high school, and then the elementary will be to be determined, just due to the fact that, what type of tool are you going to use to interact with families? RAS kids, is there some type of, I know Buff, Mr. Sen sat down yesterday with Ashley, and all his resources are on Google Classroom. And so when any student or teacher, or I should student or parent wants to see something, they'll go right to the classroom. They'll be able to get all of his resources from IXL to Khan Academy to whatever else that they want to see. So on Thursdays, there'll be a meeting, and somebody will facilitate that to give you more of a skill set on how to use some of that technology. So we know that 3 days a week that we'll have opportunities. One will be on you guys to kind of look at what's working for you, creating your own agenda, but that'll be on Mondays at a time to be determined. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll be providing some professional development, and those will be at 9, 9:45, and 10:30 on a weekly basis. Now, right now we had mentioned that this is what's expected, but that's going to change. That could change weekly, that could change daily, and so forth. But when it says future expectations, again, these will change all the time. Something we think might be working might not be working, so we're going to have to look at it. And so when we look at these things, these are not immediate. These could be weeks down the road, and that's okay. That's okay. But I think it's important for us to kind of go through those. Prepare lessons for students that include both assignments and recorded lessons. I think some of you have already done that. Some of you have put together packets and so forth, because we didn't know what was expected here not too long ago, but we'll expect you to do that, and that will change in some form as we go. How that is, we don't know yet. Consider preparing, and Diane had mentioned this a little bit before, that we had a couple parents, I talked to a couple, and they want to be told what to do. And so consider lesson plans for parents to follow, similar to the substitute teachers. And I think Erin the other day talked about, she had put some things together, even including brushing your teeth and taking a shower. But building those things so parents have something to guide by, because they're going blind right now. And by you putting something together, something that you already know how to do, and just getting it out there, that's going to be helpful. Creating daily Zoom office hours. And that might not be so much for you. It could be. I know middle school and high school are talking about Zoom office hours for them, so their students can get in and talk to them on a regular basis. You, as middle school or elementary, it could be a little bit different. Creating group Zoom meetings. You know, we talked a little bit about that before. Group Zoom meetings, you might get to the point where you can read every morning or every other morning or whatever it might be, is getting your smiling faces in front of the kids. I know yesterday, and I sent out an email, a shouts out to Mr. Lorenz, but that parent was my wife. She had called and said, "Oh, Gavin's driving me nuts at home. He's just digging his heels in and doesn't want to do stuff. He says school's waiting, it's starting Monday." And once Mr. Lorenz started a Zoom meeting, it was amazing how his demeanor changed. He was able to talk to some kids. So that is going to be an easy one for you guys, because in our district, you guys do an awesome job of networking with your kids. You have built relationships. They love to see you. And by creating these Zoom meetings, and you are able to see them, maybe it's daily, maybe it's every other day, those goals will change. That's going to be an amazing time for not only their kids, but I think you guys as teachers are going to enjoy that as well. When we continue to think about special education, Tammy and Nikki and Sonia, they're going to continue to look at that, and there's going to be some times where you guys are going to have to figure out how do you interact with those kids, and how is it going to happen more? Where individual meetings where we meet with those kids, read to those kids, or have them kids being read to, and our paraprofessionals are going to be reaching out to those kids too on a daily or often, hopefully.
Can I interrupt at that point, Jeff? So for the teachers that are affected with special education, Tammy and Nikki and Sonia and Jeff and I, we've been in communication yesterday and really worked on a draft schedule. So I will send this out to the teachers affected. I sent it out to the associate staff first to find out what they were thinking. But for example, Carol with Rhonda's class. So Carol's job at this point, and again, like Jeff said, lots of things can change. Carol will be talking with Rhonda and with Tammy. Since she works with 3 students, G and J and A, in Rhonda's room, she's going to talk to Rhonda and Tammy and figure out what concepts do you want her to be working on? And then she's going to set up either phone or hopefully Zoom meetings and give little mini lessons, 30-minute mini lessons with students. So the only way she'll be able to do that, though, is to have conversations with Rhonda and Tammy and get led, and that the two of you would then help her come up with that topic and those expectations. So we have that Luann as well for 3rd grade. And so we're figuring that schedule out. That was a lot of time yesterday trying to figure that out. So just expect that you'll probably be hearing from her. And maybe you can set up, Tammy, maybe you can help set up that time on Monday for her to meet with the 3 of you and just get that figured out.
I have to go, and Diane, can you continue with this? So we have that middle school meeting that I have to facilitate.
The middle school, are you talking about? I have those down for 10:30. It's only 9:30.
Oh, perfect. I thought they started earlier. I apologize.
No, I put in 2-hour blocks just for us to.
All right. So, and then the last one.
You seem to be in quite a hurry to leave us.
Easy, Tammy. The other one is, looking at how are we going to, right now we're looking at how many people are online. And it's nice to know that we have the middle school and high school that are online, their families are online, they have devices. And it's nice to know that we were just talking to Mrs. Christensen, the stuff they had set up for some high school kids. 2 of her students have online right now. They have access to the internet. We just need to get them a device at this time. And so Amy is going to be looking at the information you got to us about who's online and who's not online. We'll be working on, she's been working with Spectrum and some of those other type of companies that are providing free services for families. And our goal is to, all the information you sent out to us is to contact those families and make sure they get online, which will make your job a much easier as well, in how you are able to communicate with families, and hopefully take one aspect of some of the paper and coming in and having to write or to print off packets and so forth. Maybe we can eliminate that when we will see. And I know some schools are doing thumb drives, and if you can do that at home, I would even be willing to come out and get a thumb drive and deliver it to families if so we have a few families that don't have internet access. So what we need you to do in one of these conversations, even today or as we move along, when you gather more information, is how do you want to, what kind of format do you want to be able to get information out to parents? Diane had said Google, or somebody, what was that, Google Classroom is one. Class Jodo, do you do that, Dojo? Heather?
I do. I have it set up.
And so, you know, if you have a knowledge base on that and you can share, and if you think that's really been effective to be able to get information out to parents, we go with that one. And if it's simple, we do that. But maybe as a group, you can decide what type of format do we want to get information digitally to parents. And then the last one, continue to keep logs and so forth. These are things, as I had mentioned, don't look at those and become overwhelmed. These are things that we want to start working towards. And when you look at some of these, the easy part, I think, is how do we get you in front of kids and talking to them and having show and tell and some of those things that might not always be instruction based right now. But it allows them to see you and you see them, and then them seeing each other. And so when you look at those future things, that's the first part we need to look at, is getting you in front of people and sitting in your living room and them sitting in their living room and seeing a smile. Diane, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, can I just ask Heather? So Sonia brought this up earlier this morning. She came running in excited and said that she has a relative that's using Class Dojo. That's what they're using as their format. Heather, do you know how that works as far as, apparently you can put video on Class Dojo, and how do you feel about that?
It's a really good program. Really easy to use, kind of like a Facebook, but only for school. You know, school only, you create your class. You know, it's just not all out there for everybody to see. Parents have to connect. So as of the beginning of the year and as of now, because I resent with my packets a way to sign up, because not everybody has parents and nobody has yet. Mm-hmm. You kind of post on a storyboard. You can post, you know, updates, videos, pictures, and they can like it and comment on it. And you can see how many people view it, just kind of like Facebook. And they can send you private messages too. So just you and that parent can communicate. But I've done that and email, and I get the same parents in my particular class this year that respond to both email and the dojo. And it's not very many. It's like 5 at the most. So I'm not having very much luck with getting parents to contact me back as of now.
Do you think that that will look different or change for parents with now everything being online? So if the elementary were to say, we're going to connect instead of going to a Google Classroom, we're doing Class Dojo, do you think that if that's our format of communication, that participation would increase?
I think it might, being that it's way easier to navigate for myself and for the parent and for the kid. I mean, it's just a lot simpler to use. And so it's not so scary. Like they're like going to look at this and be like, yeah, I'm not even going to try because I got too much going on as it is.
Yeah. So I've seen your Class Dojo up on your board at times when I've been in your room. When you have the disciplinary piece of that, when they're earning rewards. You said that you can also do, and I know Sonia said you can do videos, they have to be like under 8 minutes. And you can share, like if you did, I'm just gonna throw something out there. If you read a story and said, I want you to answer these 3 questions, can you have those 3 questions as part of the dojo so that they can see those questions and answer them right on dojo? Does that work that way, or do they have to respond differently, like through an email?
I think they could comment, like I could post like, hey, whatever I want them to find 3 the characters in the story. And then they could comment if they had help, probably from a parent or whatever. And I could see their comments.
Do the other kids in the class see the other kids' comments?
If it's posted on the class story, yes.
I have a question for Heather. Is that through parent emails, or how are kids set up so that the kids can communicate? I'm just wondering, is it just simply through parent email, or how else do kids get on?
Through an app. To have the parents connect first, I either had to have their email or their phone number. And then I put it in, and then they get sent something in their email to connect to our class. Or I get an email saying, so-and-so's parents wants to connect to your classroom, approve it. So then I approved it, at the beginning of the year, most of that.
So maybe that's
I think their website, if you go, has a really good tutorial. In the past, I haven't looked at it since maybe last year.
So I guess my question is, can kids participate separately then through their parents' email? Like, how do they?
Yes. It's because it's an app. So if they have a tablet, or I know some kids, like with their points, they each have like this little monster. Some of them come to school and be like, oh, I changed my monster, because you can pick it. And someone didn't know, oh, how'd you do that? Well, I just, on the app on my mom's phone. So they can get on it that way.
So that might be a consideration as we move forward as an elementary team. Maybe that makes more sense. Or maybe some of you have seen something else. So I think, we're only into day 2. We have time to do some exploring and maybe make some decisions on what's the best format for you and for parents and the students as well.
Heather, would that also be easier? Our hope is to get everybody to have internet access, but you said that it allows parents, even on their phone, to have access of that as well?
Yeah, I have it on my phone.
So that would be one program that might reduce some of the barriers as well, as far as communication with all parents?
Yeah, I think it's just way more user-friendly.
Perfect.
Diane, you had mentioned that this is really only day 2. And, I think parents are really stressed, and for me, it's just starting simply as sending an email, just making sure everybody's okay and if they need anything and if everybody is well. I personally don't know of a lot of parents that want 8 hours right now of activities and things going on. I think right now people are a little bit scared and they just want to know that, you know, we're there for them. I think it's hard for parents too to balance, you know, the ones that are working all day and then having to come home and do things. But at this point, my mind is trying to wrap around all of this, and just I'm simply starting with emails, just making sure everybody is okay, and just to know that we're there for them.
I think you bring a great point up, Nicole. I was watching a 2020 TV show, and they were talking about the social emotional connection that families and kids are missing. And, you know, we saw some behavior those 3 days of school before school ended, actually into last week when we found out there were going to be changes to school. And I can't help but think it was related to some of the stress that they're feeling because they're going home and they're hearing, you know, they're hearing things, and they're hearing things here and from each other, but also at home, and they're watching TV, or moms or dads are watching Facebook. They're feeling not secure. And so one of the pieces on that 2020 article was, how do you can't forget that component, that social emotional component. And I completely agree with you. I think sending out emails, and you'll see on that document, that teacher expectation document, yesterday I told you that one of my friends, and I put those pictures on there, waiting for his teacher. You know, what does that mean to a kid? If they saw your face, or they heard your voice, or they got an email from you, that means a ton. And then the second picture I put on there is one of the teachers at my previous school had sent out her telling a bedtime story. So there's the three of them, and two of them and their dog kind of snuggled up listening to that bedtime story with her face. And I just think if we can figure out how to get your faces out there, that's going to be super important to connect with you, especially your little ones. I think there's a lot of fear in families, and that's trickling down to the kids. On the 2020 article, there was an older sibling saying, I don't want my younger siblings to die, and the younger siblings are just weeping, and you're thinking, you know, they're hearing a lot of things, and we got to be as patient and calm and ease their nerves as much as we can.
If I could just mention, in addition to what was just said, I don't know about everybody else. Personally, I'm really struggling with all of this. It's becoming really, really, really overwhelming. And sorry if I sound emotional, but I am. I think so much has happened in such a really short time, and I don't even feel like I can keep up with the changes. And so I'm just going to be really honest. When I see this expectation about what teachers should do, I'm at a point right now, I don't think I can make a schedule for another family, let alone I'm trying to figure out with my own 3 kids. Mm-hmm. And so right now I feel like me sending out anything of that sort to families is beyond overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's just how I'm feeling right now. And if anybody else is feeling that way.
I'm with you, Mandy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
well, you're worried about your own kids,
especially being in a Montessori where I mean, even not all of my kids are in the same grade level or at the same spot. So creating the schedule, I would have to create 9 different schedules for each of my kids. Maybe I'm feeling your overwhelming thing too. So just know you're not alone.
Diane, you sort of cut out, Amber. Amber Miller, I think that was you, but did the rest of you hear kind of a tinny?
Yeah, I couldn't hear it very well.
You could kind of cut out on us.
Okay, I'm typing it into the chat.
Okay. No, now we just heard you.
Can you hear me clearly, Amber D?
Yeah.
I think when we revisit again, I've reached out to 3 different homeschool moms because I think their days look a lot different than ours. And I think a lot of unease is like, we're really good at what we do in a school building. But to try and explain that to families that aren't going to do it for 7 hours a day is kind of weird for us. And a couple of the homeschool families were just sharing what their day looks like. And if I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe if we can get a different layout of what realistically can happen at home without stressing out our families and our students and ourselves, then maybe we can hit it closer on the head than we will if we just kind of take what our day looks like. I did send home what my day looks like because I think for transitions it will help kids and families understand like why their kids will experience behavior, because they're going to experience it during these transitions because they're used to a schedule that they've done for the whole school year. But if we can share what essentially homeschool looks like, and that these parents don't need to be spending 7, 6, 5, 4 hours a day in front of a screen, I think it'll reduce a lot of stress.
And some parents are still working or having to work from home. That's the one thing we have to think about too. You know, it's hard to know our population and who is at home with their families, who is working, and who has to come home at night and try to figure that out. It's hard to make assumptions on the population when they are all different. So that's hard too.
I think we just simply have to slow down a little bit and let some of the dust settle. It feels like we've been going at warp speed, just like little feet running constantly, and we're not getting anywhere. I just feel like, for me, I need to take a breath, and I need to figure out, my own kids' schedule and figure out I think a lot of pieces before I can move on. And so I feel like are going so fast, and we just simply need to slow down. I think some of these things are really great resources. But I'll be honest, I've been getting so many emails with all these resources, I can't even physically look at each one. And maybe they're really great, and maybe they'll really be helpful, but I don't even have a chance to look at one before another one's coming. And so I just feel like that we've been bombarded, and it's just been making my job, even thinking about it as a teacher, that I'm not doing a good job, because I emotionally, I can't even get there.
This is triage right now, the email that somebody sent out. And I think going in it with that mindset, like, this is just triage. We're not doing best practices. We shouldn't be expected to have all the answers. Just doing the best we can.
Jump in, Erin. So my sister-in-law had sent me this as an encouragement. So it's just a couple of bullet points, and it's what Jenny had mentioned yesterday and Erin's mentioning now. But if you're willing and able, if I could just read a couple of them to you, because I think, I don't know, it helped me calm down a little bit. So if you are willing to listen for like 5 minutes, can you just give me a thumbs up? No one? Can you hear me?
Amber,
to hear you.
You don't want to hear it?
You're very grainy. You're tinny. Like you're right now, your image is.
Leave, and then I'll come back.
Amber, we can't hear you. You might want to either put it in the chat, or you might want to send it via email. Oh, she's gone. We lost her on the screen.
If I can jump in a second, I emailed parents yesterday to ask about if someone is available to work with their child. most of my responses were not what, help us. It was, if I could read one, let families breathe a bit before work is crammed down our students' throats. And that was more the gist of what I got. Like, we just need some time. Just leave us alone for now. And so I think we also have to be careful to not cross that line between trying to take over their parenting skills. I'm worried that I don't want to offend any parents. I don't want to cross that line between telling them how to be a parent and my role as a teacher. That role seems fuzzy to me right now.
Well, I think the good news is you guys sent home, you sent home 2 weeks worth of stuff. So, or 3 weeks worth of stuff. So 2 or 3 weeks, you all are kind of in between there. So the good news is you have some time. So although a lot has happened with all of us last week, this week, moving into next week, the positive news is they have stuff. So if they choose to do it, they choose to do it. If they don't do it, they don't do it. And you're going to see families that are going to go to it. Now, yesterday, I'm going to just give you a family example. We had Sophie and or Sydney and Jenna were doing their work when I got home last night. And Sophie said, Mrs. Anderson said, we don't have to start till Monday. So she's got her packet and she's not doing anything until Monday. So I think, that's okay. It's really okay. And I think you guys, although we're doing a lot of talking, and Mandy, you made some great points, just remember it's labeled future. So the future for elementary or for our group here, maybe the future isn't until, I don't know, next week or 2 weeks from now. I mean, we've got time. These aren't things that have to be done at the moment. I think families by that time will be saying to you, man, can you please help? I need this. And you might have families like Rhonda said who say, back off. And I think we're just kind of open to both of those. I think we also understand that some families will go to it, some kids will go to it, and some won't. And we can't really control that. We don't live at their houses. All we can do is support those families as we can.
Can I share my Facebook group with you guys that I've done? Because it has me feeling okay. And I'm just wondering if anybody else, because I don't have anybody else in it right now, but would you mind looking at it as an idea? Actually, you're all captive, so you're going to look at it. I know some people don't want to do Facebook because you have to friend the parents, but I found out that you do not have to friend the parents. You can send them an email instead. So this is what my Facebook group looks like. And it's a private group, so it's not for everybody to see. You have to have an invitation to get in. And before joining, I have to say okay. I have almost all my parents. And this is something I have a plan to do: a post in the morning, a live feed in the afternoon, and then a post at night, and to share things. So that's something I shared last night. And this is from our Zoom meeting yesterday. And when I find things, I can share them. And this is probably my favorite schedule because it's realistic. And Amber talked about that homeschooling piece. I think this kind of let people breathe a sigh of relief. And then this was my live video that I made yesterday. And we just sang our good morning song and said hello to, I'm not going to make you watch it, and said hello to parents and reminded kids to brush their teeth and to go over their goals, and then sang our goodbye song. And that was it. And you can see, like, it wasn't hard. It was just doing it. And then sharing funny things. And I think it's just a quick way to reach out to families, minimal effort, very minimal. But I've gotten some good feedback on it, and it makes I can sleep a little bit at night thinking, okay, I did something. Like I always tell my students in here when they're wandering around, I said, you've got to do something. You can't do nothing. Nothing is the worst. And so I feel like I'm doing something, and it might not be the best, and it might not be a long-term solution, but it's something. And that makes me feel better. Maybe doing nothing is not it doesn't sit well with me right now. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Member group, everybody has different levels of comfort with technology. So when you look at what Erin's doing, obviously she has a different level of comfort. Like I would have to learn how to do that. So just know that, I mean, I didn't know how to share my screen today. And that's something I'm going to learn. So don't feel like at this moment, and Mandy, with your comments, those aren't expectations at today, Friday at 10 o'clock, okay? For Monday at 8 a.m. It's just, I think right now we're sort of in the brainstorming mode. And I think it's good to look for things or to talk to people. I mean, all of us have lots of teacher friends, and to be able to say, hey, what are you doing? What makes the most sense for you? And what makes sense for one group probably isn't going to make sense for another group because they don't have the background, the technology background. I think that all of us will learn throughout this time. And I think, the other thing is we really tried to, yes, we're doing a lot, and we know that. We're setting the bar really probably pretty darn high. We did that on purpose because there are school districts who set the bar super low. You have some school districts who are doing nothing for kids. And if we didn't set the bar high, you can set a bar high and go down a little bit, just like you do in the beginning of the school year with your class. When you're trying to manage your class, you set it high, and then you kind of maybe can come down a little bit. I don't know what those schools are going to do that set that bar super low, who are going to start here and try to get up to here. I don't know how they're going to do it. And they're going to have to, because at the high school level, kids still have to have credits. They're still expected to graduate. They're still expected to earn 4 credits through the state of Wisconsin. So I don't know how they're going to do that. So we did set the bar high because we want our kids to feel a little bit of urgency as far as we want you to keep learning. And I know we've talked about this, not all of our kids are going to do that, but we certainly know a lot will. So we're fighting for those kids and those families that do want their kids to keep learning. Other thoughts before we?
I just, one thing is that, it's nice to have these meetings, and it's nice to have people being honest, because in the infrastructure here, and we've talked about it, this is important. I'm glad that we have this in place, because as everybody in this world right now, there's a lot of unknown, and it's nice to have these opportunities for us to have those conversations, because as things move on and we don't know what's going to happen, it's going to be nice to be able to talk to people that we work with, the people that we see on a regular basis at school, just to be able to share, like Mandy had shared and some of the other people have shared, about where we are, not only with our work schedules, but also, more importantly, what we're doing with our families. Because my wife, I'd like to read you the email my wife sent, or text my wife sent me yesterday, but she'd kill me because some of the language in there is not so appropriate. But in our household, we're kind of pulling our hair out with trying to figure out how's this going to look too. So, so I just want to say thank you for those discussions. But I'm glad that we have. I'm glad that we have the Zooms that we can talk and move forward, because again, it might not be 1, 2, 3 weeks down the road, but at least we have some dialogue of what this might look, and it's going to look different for everybody as we move along, and that's okay. Should we, anybody else have any other things, or should we just kind of say, let's go enjoy our families and just relax for a week and not have to think about anything?
The
Thumbs
only
up.
question, the only question I'd ask Jeff is, does the elementary want, I think Jenny would like to do some teaching on Tuesday.
Yep. So on Monday, well, why don't you guys come together? And again, you guys figure out, Diane and I will leave if you guys want to figure out what time you guys want to meet on Monday. And again, we're looking at an hour of just getting together and continue to talk. Everything could be different. But if you had talked about having a purpose behind that, somebody facilitating or sending out an email. And again, these things that we're going to put out in front of you as far as professional development, you might not be, some people might be ready to use them and go with it. Some people might not, and that's okay. That's okay. And so Tuesday, we'll send out some more information on that half-hour thing that Jenny and John will put together for Zoom. And just keep looking at your emails.
Can I just make a suggestion? It seems like maybe for the elementary, they just for now just do Tuesday, and
Perfect.
maybe we set up if we do Thursday with you and just have a conversation about how we want that to look moving forward. Maybe that would feel a better comfort level. Maybe you'll have a little bit more. So if Aaron, you're very comfortable with Zoom, I can tell. Amber Miller, you're very comfortable with Zoom. That maybe Thursday we talk about what topics, and then we kind of start a schedule the following week. How would the team feel about that? So we'll have.
I'm just not afraid to break it.
So maybe we have that Zoom with John and Jenny. They're such good teachers. They'll keep teaching us how to do this better, and then Thursday we'll meet. Can we keep elementary at that 9 o'clock time that Jeff has on the schedule? Does that work for the elementary?
How about, I know that some people had mentioned about rotating that a little bit. Would 10:30 work better?
Well, she has, I'm just looking at your schedule, like what Jenny put out. So
Oh, she
you
did,
have
okay.
9, well, I don't know if those are yours or if those are Jenny's for Tuesdays. And then you put Thursdays the same, 9, 9:45, and 10:30. Did you put those out, or did Jenny come up with those times?
I'm not sure, but I thought that works. We'll just change it. I know that Jenny had mentioned that there was some talk about people wanted to rotate things around so everybody didn't have to, so people get some early ones. But let's go with elementary at 9 then.
So we'll start you elementary, if that's okay, at 9 on Tuesday, Thursday. And then we'll, if, after next week they want to do a rotation, Jenny and John can help us with that. We'd sort of like to work around what they want to as leaders. Does that work? Awesome. Hey, thank you for being candid. I know that's not easy, and know that you are supported and that we appreciate all the work you do. You guys are awesome. I was at a meeting the other day and somebody said, how are you doing all this? And I said, I'm not, they are. They're leaders, they're awesome. Our team is awesome, and we work hard and we get things done. So know that lots of people appreciate you. I super appreciate all of what you're doing, and we will do this together. So thank you. And we will talk to you on Tuesday at 9.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Enjoy the weekend.